So how has podcasting changed me? Okay, lesson number one. So humanistic capital. It's an incredible investment in your humanistic capital because, and a subsection of that, maybe I should recap this for people. Humanistic capital for me mainly is family, you know, investing in your relationship with your other half and having children. Like, what is the point of spending your whole life creating incredible financial returns to then give your capital to no one? You've got no family to have any descendants. Like, it's crazy. You've got to have humanistic capital in your life. But a subsection of that is your network, like I mentioned before, which are basically friendships, right? So podcasting, it's just unbelievable for making new friends and new opportunities. Opportunities like being an MC. I mentioned before, I've found that I have this skill where I can just stand on a stage and just talk. And it's entertaining to people and they love it. And they come up to me after like, Jay, you're so good at that. Have you had any training? I'm like, no, I just do it. And those are just awesome things that come out of starting a podcast. Like the opportunities, the abundance, it's unbelievable. Next up would be intellectual capital. So you're learning from people, right? People telling you what worked, what didn't work, why it worked, the opportunities that arrive. So it's wisdom, it's knowledge, it's decision making. Like talk about like investing in your mindset. Like, run a podcast, go and just talk to these people. It's unbelievable. Like, shout out to Jason Parks, my energetics mentor that I'm still working with, on a weekly basis, came on the podcast early on. What an incredible guy to learn from. And arguably that's pretty common when you do podcasts like this. Like many of us, I struggle with self-confidence, probably not the right word, but this podcast made me invest in myself. It's like, look, fuck this. I've had enough balls ups with people as business partners where things didn't align. Everyone's got different stuff going on in their lives. They're coming at things with different financial perspective, different time perspective, different skill sets. That's okay. But maybe you just have to be the boss. And that means you got to put your head down. You got to go for it. You know you can. You know you're talented. But like, if it goes wrong, it's on you, mate. So it makes you invest in yourself. And that's a great mindset shift. Like, back yourself. Go for it. Another shift. So we mentioned this before. It's like you have to be a good listener. But being a podcaster made me a better listener. Like, I wasn't great before. I really wasn't great. I would cut people off the whole time. I would talk over them. And I learned that was just, A, that's disrespectful. But B, I probably was doing that in day-to-day life anyway. So it just made me a better person. Next lesson. I've been so humbled by people's feedback. I know I've said like, this is all about me doing what I find interesting or following what I find interesting, which is true. But it's just crazy when you hear stories like Miles, like I already mentioned. Oh mate, I listened to your podcast. I learned so much. I made these decisions. My life's now better. Like, how incredible is that? That is beyond humbling. There's another man that I met at Bitcoin Alive, and I forget his name, but he was friends with Andrew Page, and I met him at the bar, and he'd listened to every single one of my Bitcoin with Jake episodes. He was like, "No, I've listened to every single." I was like, "What do you mean, 80 episodes? You've got to be kidding me!" It's like, "No, I've been through it all," and that is just beyond humbling that people find that much value in it. You don't. Okay, so next lesson. So you don't realize how much you learn. So you start a podcast and you don't know anything, right? You start doing all this stuff. And shout out to Dave. I'm having a beer. And he's been he owns a business locally, which is a gym business in Melbourne, and I've been doing workouts there. And we just got chatting recently. And I was like, why aren't you doing content? And I was teaching about that funnel that we just mentioned about, the short form into the medium form into the long form. It's like, set aside 2 hours a week, sit down, have a conversation, get someone to chop it up for you. Boom. Now you've got 5 or 6 different videos from the week that goes out on all your channels. And none of the other gyms locally will be doing that. So it puts you ahead of the pack. Why not? And when I'm telling him all this stuff, I just didn't realize how much I'd learned about what I was doing. So start a podcast and you learn. Next up, momentum beats perfection. For the perfectionists out there, stop fannying around. The graphic needs to be like this, or I haven't quite got the right name, or I've got to have a better microphone, or the lighting's not correct. Fuck that. Just keep going, okay? You don't fail until you stop. Optimize for getting stuff out there, basically. Next up, so recent solo episodes have forced me to dive deeper. And in some ways, this is actually really, like when you're hosting a conversation, you're asking someone about them and what they learned. And when you're doing the solo stuff, it's actually like, no, Jake, what have you learned? And that's kind of cool, right? So it makes me dive deeper. And with that, that's a real mindset shift of going, okay, I'm no longer the guy that started a podcast because I'm asking people about Bitcoin, why are you into Bitcoin and what are you doing? You're shifting into more of a position. It's like, no, I know what I'm doing, and here's why it's interesting. And that's like that classic arc that people go through from like researcher to, like you go from being the student to the teacher, essentially. It's exactly what it is. So what other mindset stuff? I've got 2 more points to make here. So, and I love this phrase, like, this is making me master my craft. And so for me, it's like, okay, I know that Bitcoin's going to be a big part of my future life. But one thing Bitcoin teaches you is it's a savings device, and it basically obsoletes the need for being an investor because it's outpacing basically every single other investment you can make. So what is it, Jake, that I'm going to do with my time? Yes, I am an investor, but the investment is done, and it's that great question, like, what if Bitcoin solves the wealth problem? You don't need to be analyzing markets, looking for opportunities. You just buy Bitcoin. It's like, okay, well, what do I love doing? I love podcasting, talking to people, learning new stuff. And that is what I'm going to hone my craft around, or master my craft around, is how do you orchestrate the highest quality possible conversation? How do you pump out the best quality content? And again, work in progress, but niche down. Become an expert in your space. You move from that, researcher asking questions through to the authority, but it's all about proof of work. So what you originally post is dog turd years later, but look at how much better you got, and that's what people like following along, right? It's the hero's arc is another way of describing that. Finally, and again to remind you, this is in terms of mindset shifts. Again, Jason, I just mentioned. So life's all about vibration, and if someone's angry with you, it's not your problem, it's their problem, right? Their anger is a reflection of their own inner turmoil, and the higher the frequency one can operate at, the different consciousness levels you can access, the superior or more sophisticated form of opportunities appear. And so a podcast in some ways is a way for you to have a signal, boom, 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 beaming out to the world, where you're dropping digital breadcrumbs that people can collect when they're ready. And I don't think I fully understand the consequences of this right now. But like, what am I going to be? Am I going to be an investor? Am I going to be an educator? Or am I going to be someone who, just hosts excellent conversations? Will I end up in politics? I don't know. But at this stage, it's about raising my vibration, seeing who I can access through that, and what opportunities come out of that for me and my family. Let's find out. So I think that's an incredibly cool one. And I've written here, it's one giant process of meditation into being your own brand.